remember Nyan Cat. We remember the end of the world. We did that shit. Like we literally, we are the NFT generation.
Hello.
I'm Titi.
I'm Jen. How's it going, Titi?
Welcome to The Things. We are identical twins with unidentical thoughts. Do you like that?
I do. It's cute.
I know you were very adamant on needing an introduction. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. How about you?
I'm good.
Yeah. My boyfriend has returned. My boyfriend's back. Probably. Or maybe it's just a dog. All right. So now that we have dealt with the dogs. So do you do anything special for full moons? Like, do you have any sort of rituals on your own? Whether it's all the time or not?
Not really. Yuan Xiaojie, I guess, is a holiday, but that's the one where you eat yuebing, right? No, I don't think the lantern
festival.
Is not
lantern. Yuan Xiaojie, you take the denlongs out.
Oh, then it's not Yuan Xiaojie.
What is Lantern Festival in Chinese?
I don't think
it's Yuan Xiaojie.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's the one where we...
Zhongqiujie is the yuebing one.
No,
okay.
I know that, but Yuan Xiaojie is the one where you walk around at the end. It's the ending. It signifies the ending of Spring Festival, which is the end of New Year's, and because New Year's is the new moon, and then it's a whole cycle to the full moon, and then it's the first full moon of the year.
I see.
Because typically you know the lore around full moons. They make people their heightened emotions. And,
is it?
Yeah, that's where the whole like werewolf thing comes from.
Oh, I don't know if there's like a general. I guess I'd have to go back and see if there's like a a correlation. But I don't know. It was a full moon this week, right?
Yeah, that's why we're and Saturday it was a full moon.
I don't think I felt anything different. I mean, my moods tend to be pretty stable nowadays, so I don't feel like they fluctuate. But there may be a little bit of fluctuation, and it probably goes with your period too.
Yeah, I really like looking at the full moon, and I like looking at now I'm by the river. I like looking at it when it's just about rising, because it really, you can see it be like one of those big witchy moons as it's coming up. It's like
it was
huge.
really pretty. I saw it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Nice. Well, today's thing, actually this is quite a heavy episode because there's a lot of research to get to. So today's thing is Gen Alpha or Generation Alpha. So I know that I sort of threw this at you and you're like, oh, I don't know.
I've never heard that term before.
Okay, so here's some basic stats. And if you've never heard it either, don't worry. You're on the same page as Jen. Gen Alpha, but you know what, like generally the concept of generations, right? Like Gen X, Gen Z, Millennials, us, right? Boomers. Okay, so it's Gen Alpha is the generation that's born after 2010. So basically, the oldest would be, I would think, 14 right now. So
it's interesting, because I saw one that said 2012 and it said 11 was oldest.
It's possible as these generations define themselves, and they tend to do so as they between that 13 to 16 age, which is where it's entering now, because that's when they enter the consumer market. That tends to be when you're going to find separation. Like millennials have differentiations, right? There's kind of like the older millennials who were old enough. Like we are right, I think, in the heart of what a millennial is. Overall, like for the sake of this, it's generally basically kids who are
preteens
leaving middle school, about to enter high school, are Gen Alpha. That's Gen Alpha right now. And then obviously the trailing of that, which we will see what happens with them. Gen Alpha, often shortened to, or Generation Alpha, often shortened to Gen Alpha, is the demographic succeeding Generation Z. So if you guys know Gen Z, that's the one that's all the buzz on TikTok, but move over, their crown is being taken. And I have to say right off the bat, I love Gen Alpha because Gen Alpha is called mini millennials, because a lot of Gen Alpha are the kids of millennials, whereas Gen Z was the kids of Gen X, and then like maybe some young millennials who had kids, but Gen Alpha is basically like our friends having children. And they are learning from us, and they are loving the trends that we wore, and they are siding with us, and to the point where on TikTok, and we'll get to more of this later, but to the point where Gen Z is straight up like, ugh, Gen Alpha's annoying, and Gen Alpha's like, who says slay? And it's quite fun as a millennial watching them fight over the territory of the internet, which we kind of built up for them. because we are the first generation that really played on the internet.
Uh-huh.
So you don't know much about Gen Alpha. So I'm going to give you some basic stats. The term is credited generally to Mark McCrindle. So he's overall credited with this. I'm sure it's
for all the letters.
No, Generation Alpha. So he was credited with this because he's a social researcher and futurist. He wrote this book called The ABC of XYZ, Understanding the Global Generations. And that was published in 2009. And during research for his book, he was asking people like what to call, because he figured like you kind of feel when a generation's emerging. So you kind of felt like there was a new generation after Gen Z, and he didn't know what to call them. And so he was asking people what they thought would be good names. And overall, the one that came out the most was like Gen A, Gen Alpha, because we were at Z. I think some people have suggested Gen C for COVID, which I'm glad that didn't stick. Imagine being defined by COVID. It'd be like if we were like Generation Columbine, because it's like, oh God.
Oh. Well, like it or not, I think COVID does define them, but not COVID, the disease, but all the change that came with it.
This is the first generation that really, when they were entering, like when they were like old enough to really socialize and enter school, right? Because I mean, their first couple of years they weren't in school. When they're entering kindergarten, preschool and above, that they had to do it entirely online. So that really does influence them, which is really interesting. They are characterized by their use of technology at an early age, because even though Gen Z had technology, like this is the first generation that's like, they call them digitally native. Like we literally have babies watching and past the point where for a while it was like, oh no, screen time's bad. And now like apps are built in where they like have regulations, but also like there are baby types of computers now. And these children are digitally native. One example I can give you is I was talking to my friend's baby when she first had him. My friend had a baby during COVID, and we would all FaceTime every week, me and this group of girls, just to catch up and check in with each other. And when I met this baby over time, like over the first year of his life, we would say hi to him on FaceTime, and he could recognize. Like I don't know like what degree he recognized me, but you could really tell that he could recognize faces, and that's something I think my dog can't even do. And to the point where he recognizes mom on FaceTime, because then when I hung out with her and I was talking to him, because I was on with his dad and I said, hey, like saying hi to the baby, my friend came back on and he's changed expressions. Like it was like he was happy to see me, but then when he saw his mom, he was like, that's mom. And that's really cool, because this was a 1-year-old who just understands immediately, like that's my mom. And when I met him in real life.
But the voices, all that stuff plays into it too. Right?
I think so too. And I do think mother and children have a specific connection that is like quantum, that can go beyond location. But I will say, when I first met this baby in real life, like it felt like he knew me. Like we had met before and I knew him. And so that was really interesting. So in addition to being characterized by their use of technology, they also, one side effect is they're kind of the byproduct of sharenting. Have you heard this phrase before?
No, but can I guess?
Sure.
Is it people who overshare on social media, like pictures and stuff of their kids?
Yes. So that is a part of that. Yeah. Basically, they grew up with like millennial parents sharing everything, milestones. And that I think could be a different episode where we really get into the weeds of that. But for the purpose of this, we're not necessarily judging it. It just is. Obviously, we can all see the concerns from many angles, and especially myself as a millennial who didn't grow up with that. There's a panic when I hear that. But, we have to understand that as trends change and as generations change, things change. Like we had chat rooms and people were terrified of that. And to some degree, they were terrifying. But me as a 13-year-old was like, chill out, mom. And now as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, chat rooms were terrifying. So I kind of think sharenting will find a way in a way that will make more sense. But yes, this is the first generation that like without any...
Well, they can't give consent.
Yeah, without any
different
precedent.
You choose to be there.
Well, I'm just saying without any precedent. Well, yeah, but there's predators all over it. Without any precedent to how it works and without any like studies, yeah, it's just an unknown. But I don't think we're moving away from people sharing. So,
well, let me ask you this. How would you feel if one day you realized you had all these photos and videos, like naked baby photos online, and you didn't consent to them? Because at what age do you become conscious of being like, I'm my own person and I don't want you to do this? Because like parents will do this to the babies, right? Like, is it 6? Is it 7? What age does it cut off where you're like, Mom, don't do that? And then the mom listens to you, you know? So I think it's dangerous.
Well, to your point, that's exactly what I was saying, right? I answered your question, but I'll just reiterate what I was saying is we didn't have that growing up. So when I think about it, I'm putting it in the context of if I had that in the world that I grew up in, and it would be very odd. But if I had that now growing up in this world with the caveat that in 10 years, things will be different too, because all of my peers will have had that and will have hopefully more resources to figure it out. I think I would be more, I would be a little bit more, what's the word? My panic would be a little more tempered. I wouldn't care as much. And that being said, I don't know because again, we don't have the data, but I'm more inclined to think if I was in a general trend and I wasn't extreme and my parents weren't being extreme and everyone around me was kind of interacting with each other to the height of their intelligence, people make mistakes. And I generally think that if we're moving as a community and interacting with each other, then it's a little bit less alarming. So that's what I think. I don't disagree that there are elements of like when does consent begin? But I would also say our generation suffered a lot of trauma without the internet because our parents were making decisions for us and not treating children. Our parents, as a broad idea, not just ours, not just me and you, because when I talk to you, it's literally me and you. But our generation's parents did not overall, I mean, this is generalization, but it's, I would say majority of our generation didn't view children as full people. Like if a good example is at like a restaurant, parents would order for kids. Or if a kid goes, I want burger instead. This is very common back in when we were growing up. And I forget the scientific study, but there was a psychology study where comparing millennial parents to like Gen X, where they would, like if a kid goes, I want a burger, the parent would just be like, oh, they'll have chicken nuggets, and not even look at them, and the waiter would just like look at the parent and not even acknowledge. And then in this specific story, on the study, there was like a millennial parent, and the waiter was like asking the kid or asking the mom, and then the kid said something, and then they both looked at the kid, and then the kid was like, I want this, and the waiter was like, obviously not just like, yeah, I'll do it if your mom doesn't say yes, but it's like, oh, okay, like, is that okay? And the mom was like, oh, okay, yeah. So there was like a check-in, which I don't think our parents' generation understood how important that is for children to feel seen and heard.
Interesting. Oh, I want to go back to something you said earlier, because you said if everyone's doing it, you would feel like
everyone's doing it.
I'm paraphrasing here, but you said like if the general trend is moving towards a direction, you wouldn't feel as panicked. So you believe in kind of the collective, what is the collective reasoning? There's a term I'm trying to remember,
Intelligence?
Hive mind type of thing. I can't think of the word right now, but
collective intelligence.
Yeah, something like that. Do you think it's always the smart thing will prevail, or do you think it'll just go with the majority, whatever it is?
I think neither, and I think that's a very leading question. I'm going to call you out on that because you use words like, do you think always? And you gave me binary answer when I want to say, and I understand wanting to, like, for the sake of being like shocking, pick an answer. But I think my point that I was trying to make is that we don't know. And I think what's scary is the unknown, but also it's not always that scary when you look back and see all the things that we didn't know. And I'm not saying we all turned out perfect, but we figured it out. So I like to think of more of like, if we're in a river and there is a waterfall, it will be scary, but we'll all go down it, as opposed to spending all your time right before the waterfall fighting it. You're not going to win. And so either get out of the river, fine, or find another path. But if you're already at the end by the waterfall, you're a molecule. You go down the waterfall and eventually find the river. So that's what I mean. I don't think that there's necessary. I like when you say hive mind, that really feels negative to me.
I just couldn't think of the word.
Collective intelligence is a
there's
different
another
thing.
word, collective. It's escaping my mind now, but it's like a group.
There is such a thing called collective intelligence, and studies have shown that when you get a lot of people together,
that might be
whether or not they know the answer or not, if you average the answers out, it is like to a T correct. Like it works for, like, you can be like, how many jelly beans are in this jar? You can get it down to like the number. If you like 1,000 people can guess, you will get it. And so there are studies that show that, and we just don't know enough, but I really like to think of that in the metaphor of nature, because there is an energy. But does that mean isn't someone who guessed 50 and the answer is 150? Like just because you're in the collective doesn't mean you're in the right. Does that make sense?
And you also said panic. So what about it makes you panic?
I don't panic, but what I was
Or
saying.
you said you would be less likely to panic.
Well,
so
I'm
what
saying
would make you panic?
When you're talking about this idea, like you were using words like naked pictures, consent, like that to me draws panic and alarm because we're using really alarming ideas and really emotion. No, I disagree. We're using very alarm, and I'm seeing this a lot with the way we talk about.
Hold on, what do you mean disagree? Consent is yes or no, right? There's no blurred line.
But that's not the
or
conversation
naked is
we're
naked
having.
Or clothed, right? I don't see
Well,
where
that's not the conversation we're
blurred
having,
line
right?
is.
Sure, but that's not the conversation we're having.
So when I
said
that,
what is your question?
I was just asking what makes you panic, because you said you panic if you don't follow the collective.
Well, I didn't say I'd panic. I was saying,
or you would panic.
I'm saying I don't panic as much as other people seem to make me feel I
so
need to.
What do other people panic about then? Not you, but what do you think people are panicking about?
I think that there is a general alarmist attitude towards social media, especially from folks who grew up without it, because of all the possibilities like child pornography, that sort of thing that come up. Well, that's what you're talking about.
I didn't.
You just said baby pictures and naked.
I didn't even. My mind did not go there, but that is a whole thing. I've seen these ads. They're trying to prevent parents from posting because I said AI could harvest the photos of the face. Like you don't even have to post their naked pictures,
right?
But I just said naked pictures because I was thinking of when we were kids.
Right. If you would let me finish, could I please finish? Because I think this is important. Because what I'm trying to say is like, for example, this is a big topic right now in Congress, and Meta is overwhelmingly being like, I mean, I don't like Meta personally, and I do think they should address these concerns, but there is an overwhelming narrative pushing towards the fact that a part of the app has made it so predators can exist. But I think what we're missing is like those predators have always existed. I don't think that it's okay, and I think we need to address it. But I think there is this fear that's driving the narrative more towards social media equals more predators, which I am not sure the data is there for. In fact, I am seeing, and this is anecdotal, so I don't know, but I would say personally, as someone who is very anxious and is not like an adventurous person in the world, like when I was in middle school, high school, like I get hurt, my feelings hurt easily, bullies hurt me. But on the internet, I have found that positive energy mirrors back. It's not everyone's situation, but I felt that I didn't have as many opportunities to find those kind of communities without social media. And so when we talk about the dangers, I'm afraid that we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I'm afraid that instead of addressing the root of these dangers and the problem, we're saying, oh, social media equals bad, not people with dark desires equals bad. How do we find a way for the good of technology to exist while also dealing with these dark desires and figuring out how to root them out? Does that make sense? So when I say panic, I'm kind of using this word as to address the energy I felt from you when you were talking about how like, oh, how would you feel, or this is dangerous, or they don't have a thought, because I think these are nuanced answers and there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, you said how do you find a balance? I think that's innovation, right? So like whenever there's a problem, like the kind of the entrepreneurial spirit, people are gonna like race to find a solution. So I think the more people talk about kind of what their concerns are, the more businesses or individual actors can I guess seek to find a solution. And there's kind of incentive to do so, not just to better society or whatever, but like even if it just comes down to it, like financial incentive, because if you can build a better app, like you get rewarded.
I'm glad you said that, because that brings me to my next bullet point about Gen Alpha. So you talked about consumer, you talked about businesses. Okay, so that leads into just for a little lead in, Gen Z, which is the generation after us, before Gen Alpha, they've picked up on some of their trends are like they picked up on the wry nihilism and anti-consumerist tendencies of their Gen X parents, right?
The what? The wry what?
Nihilism.
What's that?
Well, it's sort of like, we're all going to die. The world's burning. It's on fire. We hate it.
Geez.
When that's Gen X, right? That's the people who listen to not Metallica. What is that band that everyone has?
Gen X is wartime, right?
No, Gen X is our parents, and they're very like,
it was like, World War II.
They're very like disenchanted. And it was like ska, punk. It was like post rock and roll and very like What's the
I thought Gen X. Hold on, because I'm not very well versed in this. Maybe you can help me.
I can tell
I
you
remember
exactly.
Gen X. It was the first one they named, and it was because it's generation lost.
Nope.
Right, that's what was X.
No, and you know what? I'm glad you bring this up so I can give you a refresher.
I don't remember why they were lost.
I can give you a refresher. The lost generation is the first generation name. That's if you were born in 1883 to 1990. No, sorry. Yes, 1900. I'm sorry. And the greatest generation, GI, and we won't know anyone in these generations because they've died.
The wartime.
Yeah, the greatest generation was 1901 to 1927. Then
why did they get that title?
I don't know. The GI, maybe.
They named themselves.
Maybe. Or GI, maybe like GI Joe. The silent generation, 1928 to 1945, was like in between the wars. Yeah, and in between the wars because it really like everything was shitty. There was a dust bowl.
War related.
Then we got the baby boomers post-war, 1946 to 1964. The roaring 60s. Out of the 60s comes Gen X. So that's like the swinging 60s. Gen X, to answer your question, comes after the 60s. So it's basically the beginning of the civil rights movement, 1965 to 1980. So what you're getting is a lot of change, a lot of feeling like the individualism, a lot. And I think there's a lot of like feeling disenchanted with the world, or also feeling like you're in a new world because like there's sort of this feeling like the war before, like the war before the war, everything feels old timey, and they're coming into like TV's coming a big thing, right? You got late night shows, you got comedy, you got like all the Brady Bunch, all like popular culture was just emerging for Gen X. So that's our parents, and then millennials, we've got internet. That was really 1981 to 1996. That's like Steve Jobs, Wozniak.
Well, I was just wondering why it was X.
Well, so the reason it was X, I think because they were like, honestly, to me, I think of those shirts with, God damn it, what is it? It's not Metallica. What are those shirts Gen X wears? Oh my God.
Well, those things came after, right? But they named it X. I think the X was because it was like, it could be anyone, like X. When people say like, XYZ X. I think it had something to do with that. Like it was like.
But do you know? Okay, it's like okay.
Yeah, but those are characteristics. I know, that's not what the name was for.
Someone needs to tell me what I'm talking. Someone will know exactly what it is. It's not. It's not Arcade Fire. It's not Metallica. It's like a picture of like a skeleton man, and it's like screaming and like. Feel like every single Gen X man has this shirt and like ska.
Is it a band?
Yeah. But I just can't remember the band. And when I
Kiss?
No. And when I think of it, it's in that. It's not that, but it's in that. Oh my God. Okay. Well, we'll come back to that. But oh my God,
it's like
it's
a hard rock
bug
band?
me so much.
Orgy.
It's
Pantera.
not that hard rock. No. And it's like it'll come to me. But anyways, so coming back to what I was talking about, the Gen Z mostly was coming out of their parents were Gen X. So they've got those kind of like anti-capitalist, which I would say millennials now, we just are more active and political. People in cities are like that. But I'm going to be honest, and a lot of my millennial friends having their nice lawyer lives and doctor lives, settling down, are not talking about anti-capitalism as much as you would think. Probably all the listeners to this are on my side, like fuck capitalism. But I'm going to be honest, like most of my friends from college, I went to NYU and half of them were in business school, are not like, fuck capitalism. They're kind of like, I am enjoying my life that I worked for. So Gen Alpha is the kids of that. And it will be interesting to see when our like artists, because a lot of the artists haven't had children yet, right? Because we're a little delayed, a little stunted. We need a little more time.
What do you mean?
Well, I just mean a lot financially speaking. A lot of the millennials who had kids,
because of COVID.
A lot of the millennials who had children that are old enough to be in middle school and high school, that I know at least, and I think I can say that there's less pressure to have children generationally. So a lot of those children, their parents have a little more stability, or were able to have kids out of college. So a lot of them have careers, whereas the artists, like the singers, the dancers, the
Is that
comedians,
not a career?
No, we're not having kids. How many people do you know have 13-year-olds?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm saying that this...
Well, it's just by age.
Right. So what I'm saying is that this... No, I'm saying...
If I had a 13-year-old, I would have had to have a kid at like 20.
Yeah, but you could have had a kid at
22,
25 and you would have like a 10-year-old.
It's very young, 25.
It's not that young.
Most Americans don't have kids that young.
Well, this isn't just about Americans.
I would say. Oh, okay.
This is worldwide. And worldwide, I find, though this data shows that the Gen Alpha is actually leaning more towards brand loyalty and nostalgia. Like the kind of shit that we liked growing up, which is like the commercials we watch, like Nerf gun Barbies. Like Barbie is a huge movie. Like the new generation is leaning back into like buying shit, but like knowing maybe like socially conscious brand awareness. But Gen Z was a lot more like, fuck capitalism, fuck your brand. Like they were the ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were the ones that were like literally like, you know, that the, because the brand, they were the ones that had the embarrassment of like Pepsi doing that Black Lives Matter commercial with Kendall Jenner, like Absolute Vodka with their LGBT pride label.
We were alive during that too.
Of course, we were alive. Everything.
So
we were alive. I'm saying
what makes it Gen Z?
Because it was a core part of their life. So what I'm saying is Gen Z is like brands suck. Capitalism sucks because life sucks.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I thought they were, because TikTok, all that. I thought they love brands.
Just search
like viral brands. That's a Gen Z thing.
That's Gen Alpha.
Gen Alpha is like 11. They're not buying things.
Okay. Well,
where are they buying brand money from their Gen Z sisters and brothers?
I would say, well, we can get to the data, but I mean, I'll skip ahead and say that Gen Alpha is overwhelmingly making friends online and live streaming everything, including playing video games online while they're hanging out. So a lot of purchases may not look like what you think. You're not going to the mall and buying things, but they are buying a ton of shit. The amount of money you spend in a mall in an afternoon pales in comparison to the amount of money you spend on a Twitch stream in 3 hours, because you're giving hearts to each other, you're buying shit, you're buying weapons, so they are buying shit and they are cool with it, and they are being shield shit in their games. And again,
you're saying Gen Z doesn't like to buy things?
I'm not saying. The North Carolina State University researcher Heather Dretch, according to Business Insider, says, and I'll just quote because I do feel like you disagree, and I'm okay with that.
No, I'm just asking because I know my impression of Gen Z is that they like
and
they like things,
and I'm sure a lot of people have that impression, and that's why this podcast is here to give you some facts. Gen Z has seemingly picked up, I'll say this again, on some of the wry nihilism and anti-consumerist tendencies of their Gen X parents, but Gen Alpha is much more likely to mirror some of the brand loyalty and nostalgia of their millennial parents, wrote Heather Dretch, an assistant professor of marketing at North Carolina State University.
Yeah, but you just said a tendency, but I want to know purchases, because that's just are they actually buying less? Is there statistics on that?
We're not talking about buying. Like you said, they don't have that spending power yet.
Gen Z. I'm saying, are you, because you said they don't like to buy things. So I was saying, I'm curious if they do buy less, maybe because of like inflation or things like that.
Yeah, tell us. We are curious. So Jen is really curious. And if you know the answer, we would love to know. You can write us. We don't have an inbox yet, but comment below. Let us know.
If you're Gen Z,
yeah,
do you
or
like
if you're a
buying
researcher,
things?
let us know. I will say, and I didn't include this in my facts, but I will say that Gen Alpha is not into Gen Z is not into Sephora.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and because they think it's like Claire's, like it's flocking with teens.
So
like,
where do they buy their makeup?
Probably online. They don't like them all, but there is something, and they call it something. It's like elephant something, but
Drunk Elephant. Drunk Elephant.
What?
Drunk Elephant.
What is that?
It's a brand. It's a makeup brand that they sell at Sephora.
But yeah, so it's they don't like that. Gen Z hates Sephora. Let me show. So I will say this. I'll explain to you why. And everyone gets in their head, just like when we thought Limited 2 was not cool anymore, but it was the coolest thing for a second. That was very millennial. So Gen Z, and this will
Every time you say Gen, I think you're talking to me.
That's hilarious. Gen.
Yeah, I keep thinking you're saying Gen.
Gen.
That's funny.
I can't wait for there to be a Gen. There's got to be a Generation Gen.
J. I guess.
Like a J, J-E-N,
or G, maybe
G-E-N,
G.
G-E-N. I would love
Gen
for,
G.
like,
probably.
we're just Generation.
They might not keep naming them that long.
Generation.
I feel like they're going to get bored of.
Do you remember the Spice Girls song? Generation Y, Generation Y.
Next.
Oh.
It's a generation next.
Sephora kids are Gen Alpha's latest problematic trend. Okay, so what? It's so funny because what happened was obviously Sephora started to be more inclusive in branding and also marketing to younger, because as we get older, we were the millennials were going to Sephora when it was new, and it felt cool. Gen Z grew up like that was just the brand. Like it's like Macy's. Like Macy's does not feel cool to our generation. It has never felt cool. It was a place that mom took us that sometimes has cool clothes. You know what I mean? But like it was never like oh my God, like,
I think everyone has their preferences.
well, I'm just saying, do you remember when H&M opened? Like when something is new and
Sure,
you're
yeah,
around for it, it's different.
Yeah, they have a marketing push and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
So Sephora kind of re-push, and as they try to re-push to the teens, what actually happened is the preteens wanting to be teens flocked Sephora. So the teens don't like Sephora because it's flocking with preteens. So when they show
There
up,
are a lot of young kids
yeah.
there.
So when like if a 16-year-old show up, they would be surrounded by 13-year-olds. And I don't care. Like I'm 34. I don't care if I'm hanging out with a 31-year-old or 28-year-old because adults don't give a shit about that. But if you're a 16-year-old and you want to be cool and you're surrounded by 14-year-olds and 13-year-olds and 11-year-olds, you're going to be like, this is for children. I don't like this place.
Right,
I
because they want to be older.
Yes. So they don't like Sephora. But Gen Alpha loves it because it makes them feel older.
That's funny. It's funny because that really like sums up what makeup is. Because I remember when I was a kid, like wanting to wear makeup to feel older, but knowing that older people wore makeup to look younger because the advertising for the makeup brands would be like, look young. And then I was like, I'm buying this, but I'm trying to look old.
This is hilarious. Okay, I have to read this. I'm gonna read a little clip because this is little just so funny, and it will super describe like the dynamic between Gen Z and Gen Alpha. That's made me feel calm. That I used to be like, oh my God, Gen Z is coming for my, but we don't care because millennials, we created the internet. I'm sorry, but we like built it the way that like we made it what it is.
Okay, this is a practical question. I thought every generation just happens like every 10 years. Are you saying that there doesn't have to be a next generation?
There will probably, but generally what happens is if you see these timelines, they're not defined
Or
by
like
specific
10, 20 years, right?
Not always.
But like, so what would be the fear of having another generation? Because you know that there's going to be more people born.
It's not the fear, but it's this innate feeling of like when you are the cool, young, hot thing being marketed to you, and you know deep down that you will not be that forever. But when you start feeling it, when you start really feeling that you're not cool anymore, it sucks. But you don't have that. Well, we're the first generation that we actually interact with each other because boomers get to just go off and sip their rosé in their nice mansions that they bought for $300,000 or whatever because they could afford housing back then. And they get to be like, sip, sip on my sangria. Haha, kids these days. And they don't have to hear what the shit we're talking about them. They don't. They watch their Fox News and they have no idea what we're saying about them. Millennials are on TikTok hearing the shit Gen Z's saying about them. Gen Alpha is on TikTok talking shit about Gen Z. Gen Z is on so that's the difference. Yes, all generations talk about each other, but we millennials are the first one that kind of built up the internet, so we haven't left it. We're not leaving the internet the way boomers left the club when they had kids.
Oh, I see.
Well, they're not out there being like, wow, I feel old. Like, I'm not doing the sock club anymore.
So having another generation makes you feel old because it means that
there's
a new wave of people being born, which inherently means you're aging. Is that what you're saying?
Well, partly, yes, but also that they're in our spaces now. And we felt like we made these spaces.
Oh, okay.
Because Instagram, we kind of, all those trends like food influencers, let me take a selfie, like millennials did. And now we are still there, okay. But they are now there. So there is this feeling. And Gen Z had it lucky because they got to come in and be the belle of the ball, the little sisters being like, we are cool and hot and everyone wants us to be the influencers. And then they're realizing like, oh, we really don't have much to say because we didn't build the internet. And also we're being overshadowed by Gen Alpha. So now Gen Z is like really like, bye-bye Gen Z. Because at the very least, millennials are always going to have like, we remember Nyan Cat. We remember the end of the world. We did that shit. Like we literally... we are the NFT generation. Literally, like, as in, like, you can't erase the fact that we went to computer camp. Like, we, as a generation, can't be erased in the conversation of the internet because we literally made the internet happen.
What do you think the next thing is going to be? Is it AI? Like, what's the next your internet, I guess, of the Gen Z or Gen Alpha?
I think it's already happening, and I don't want to get too carried away because I have a lot more here and I have a game I want to play. But I think the next generation, the next thing that's already happening, you just looked at China, it's buying things from each other. It's like social consumption. So people will, it's not just I'm being paid to shill you something anymore. Like it used to be like influencers get paid to obviously market you something, right? Like tummy tea. But now it's like I go out and buy something I genuinely like and then I'm happy to show you my life. And then someone's like, oh my God, where'd you get that?
Affiliate marketing. Yeah, I've seen that
Yes.
before. Yeah.
But more so beyond the consumerism part, the social aspect. Because when you ask your friend, oh my God, that's so cute, where'd you get that? Or where do you get your nails done? We're not doing that on a scale across the internet with people that are our friends. People are becoming parasocially friends. But I think we're going to go beyond that and start trusting again, which would be nice. Because right now it's still kind of like, I'll show you something. You don't know if you trust me or not. But like, for example, I bought a lamp I liked. You bought me a lamp I liked. And I can now sign up for affiliate marketing. And if I make a video showing that lamp, I can now tag that product. And if someone buys it, I can make money. But I'm not using my presence on TikTok to make money. But why not if someone likes
like a byproduct?
Why not? If someone likes the shirt I'm wearing, tell them where I got it. And now it's no longer like this video is about marketing. This video is about me telling you about my day. This video is about me making a joke. And then you're like, cool shoes. But now you don't have to say cool shoes. It's already tagged. You can buy my shoes. And so that is where it's going.
So you're
next.
helping people find, it's like a win-win. You're helping them
I think
find
so.
it. And
I think that there's going to be a rocky period where like brands come in and
because
it's like,
people
what the hell?
might take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, of course they are. But I think we're going to figure that out. And I think to answer your question, I think that's what's next. Some notable Gen Alpha people. Okay. So, if you guys are wondering, like, try to put a face to this generation.
So these kids are 0 to 14 years old?
Yeah. So we got Prince George. Okay.
He's a prince. A real prince?
Yeah, Prince George.
Oh, he's like the
Prince
crown
George.
prince.
He's the royal baby.
Okay.
You don't remember the royal baby?
I don't know. I'm not keep up with.
There was a royal wedding and then there was a royal baby and his Prince George.
Prince Edward's kid.
No, Prince.
Not Harry. We live in America. We're not.
No, it was a big deal. It was the Kate Middleton. Pippa. No, Kate. The Kate.
Oh yeah. I can see his face in my head. I just don't remember his name.
It's George. His name was George.
George.
William and Kate's baby.
That's right.
William and Kate's baby, Prince George. Okay. Then we got Blue Ivy Carter. Know who that is? Our royalty.
All the kids of famous people.
Our royalty. Well, I mean, I'm listing famous Gen Alpha
Northwest
people.
in this.
I'm listing famous Gen Alpha people. Northwest, yes, born in 2012, is called the voice of the Alpha generation. And I think partly because that makes sense. So much of the Kardashians brand is being online. And when you talk about consent, like I actually, for a family that no matter what, she's going to be online. And, I don't know the inner workings, but from the outside, it looks like at the very least, I like how Kim Kardashian handled that, making an account joint with North. And so she can have fun making dances, whatever. But instead of making it feel like you have one where I'm watching over you, do you see how it's like me making a podcast with you? It's like, I like that they have mother-daughter bonding time with the account. And that feels safe. And that I feel like is a good example I hope to see more of instead of being like parental guidance. Because we all know how to hack that shit. But what if you were like, Mom, do you want to make a channel with me? And here's my idea, Mom, for a video. Oh, great idea. What do you think about this? And then you sit down and actually give your child a chance to pitch you something and then execute with them. I remember wanting to do stuff with Dad all the time. Like, can you teach me how to make a computer? If he said yes, I mean, to be fair, he was very busy, but if he was like, yes, and we sat down and made one, maybe I'd be a computer engineer today.
Yeah, do you think that you mentioned the busy? Do you think that's going to, because I can see how like entertainer parents can have the time to do it, but like you think of a single mom already juggling a few jobs and having to help with homework, and is that going to be an extra like thing now, like, oh, all the other parents are doing it, now I got to add this onto my plate?
I think that a good healthy relationship involves balance and involves understanding what your boundaries are, and I think that's what I'm excited about. Millennials know boundaries more than our parents did, and again, whenever I say our parents, in case Mom and Dad are watching, I'm using broad generalities because I know just like when you hear Jen, it sounds like your name. Our parents does also mean our mom and dad, but I meant our, like the broad our parents of millennials. And I think that it's possible that will be a thing, just like college applications were a huge issue for our generation. But could you say that, I don't know, it's tough because I'm like, would it have been nice to have less pressure? Sure. But like, it's hard to really look back and not be proud of going to college. So I think that some people who have a tendency to need to keep up may be more pressured. But I think that overall, it would be just the same to me as like the old pressure in the 50s of having to be a perfect housewife and be the soccer mom. Like, what's so different about that? Except in this case, you can be at home and you can bake a cookie together and make content. that's cute. I personally lean towards like, I want to have kids soon, and I think about that, and that excites me more than having to compete with other moms making like a dance recital costume.
Well, what if you don't want to be online, but now your kid's pressuring you? Like, how do you juggle like wanting to be involved and not letting them down, but also like, respecting your boundaries?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I actually think that would be a great, in hypothetical situation, a great moment to teach them about boundaries, because that's a situation where you don't want to let them down. Something that may come up, especially for young girls, but you don't want to do something. So how can you let them in on how you're feeling, let them know you love them, accept the consequence of, if the reality is I'm not going to do this with you, honey, of letting them down, but also in how do you then show them you love them? So if, like, for example, if I didn't want to and my kid asked me, I might say something like, I might tell them, I can see that this is really exciting for you. I might even ask them, what is it you want out of this? I might even say, honey, this is something I don't feel comfortable doing, and try to find an example of like, when you didn't feel comfortable singing in front of the crowd and, auntie was pushing you, and I said, it's okay. You don't have to get up on stage. Like, for me, this is like that. I don't want to do this because I just don't feel comfortable. I don't think there's anything wrong with other people wanting to. I think if you want to, that's fine. Is there any other way I can spend time with you? And then,
so you would let them though create an account?
Well, I think this
if
is
you don't feel
case by case, right? If I feel that they are not ready for it, then I might say, could we, maybe work
like a family account, you only share it with family,
or could we work on, waiting? Is there something else you would like to do until you're old enough to do that, right? Maybe we can maybe you can practice making videos, and every Friday at dinner time you can do a recital and show mom and dad the videos you made.
How do you think kids will because I can already see like you were saying about like, what if all their friends are sharing? Like, maybe just sharing with your family is not enough. They want to be validated because they want to get the likes, and all their classmates are getting popular, and maybe they want to do that too. How would you navigate that?
I think that's interesting, and parenthood is difficult, but I would counter it with like, maybe they would want that and maybe it wouldn't be enough. But I can, as someone who didn't feel that seen and heard, and I'm happy now with how I've been able to work on our relationship with our parents, but as someone who literally was, and I've always liked performing, but let's be honest, like, I have a deep-seated desire and craving for validation that may have been, may not be as strong as in adulthood if it had been addressed a little earlier. So I believe that if my kid were like, it's not enough, like, maybe that's a conversation we would have then, but I don't think I need the answer to that now, because I think the step before that is I would want to see, I honestly think that kids want their parents' love and attention the most. I'm not gonna lie. Like, even now as an adult, I still want it. Do you know what I mean? So I think that if there was that extra attention, like, my dog wants it. If I was like, oh my God, I want to see what you made. Come show me, honey. Like, and I actually sat down full attention, did a screening every week. Like, that is so much more effort and goes beyond a friend's like, honestly. So my hypothesis is I don't think we would get to the point where the kid was like, I don't care what you think, mommy. I still want my friends to like me, because I think friends like kids that are well adjusted and loved by their parents. That's just true.
Yeah, because I think about that. I'm like, if all their classmates are online, and now the online is kind of like we used to go to the mall or the movies to see all the young people, but now it's online and you're not allowed online. Would you feel like you're kind of like an outcast?
Yeah.
So
maybe
that would be really hard.
Again, these are such case by case that I think it could kids are weird. They literally could be like, I don't want to wear blue. Blue's ugly, because literally the popular girl said blue is ugly, and now nobody can wear blue. Like, that happens. Or a popular girl would be like, ew, soccer is cool, but tennis sucks. And then all of a sudden your kid be like, I don't want to do tennis. Like, you don't know. Like, that could happen.
Yeah.
So I just think ultimately all you can do is give them love and attention as a parent, unconditionally.
How would you keep them offline though? If do you think they could go make a secret account? I'm just thinking like,
what?
Yeah.
Haven't you ever done something your parents didn't want you to do? I don't think it's my job. Honestly, I think it's my job to love my kids. I don't think it's my job to be policed for them. Like, look, no matter how much you worry or how much you restrict your kids, they could still get hit by a car. They could still do something, like, they could still, like, look, case in point, Harry, like, something could happen like that. Or they could just make a secret account, or they could sneak out.
Yeah.
Guess what? I would much rather they sneak out than jump off a building. So you know what? I'm going to be like, okay with that. I'm going to say my goal is not to get my kid to not listen to me. My only job as a parent, and I 100% believe this, and me and my partner are on the same page, is to love my child unconditionally and love them harder when it feels like it's not enough. That's it. Like, that's it. I don't need them to listen to me. I don't need them to be a good child or a good student. Like, maybe that would be nice and set them up for success. But my only job and if I've done that, then I've succeeded as a parent. That's all. How would you do it?
Well, I guess my question isn't so much about specific, but I'm just contemplating, because you were talking about trends and how things are going more towards online and how they're digitally native. So I think they're not operating from a place, like for us, it's like, okay, online. Remember we used to have like internet time, like 30 minutes online. I feel like it's so far past that for them that it's like people will go places to be like, there's no Wi-Fi. Like they can't even fathom the idea of not having internet. That if you said like you can't be online, I would imagine it could feel like a death sentence. Like it could feel like you're saying you can't go to school.
Sure. And I would hope that my child and that me as a parent could understand how to attune to their emotions. And if I am giving them a death sentence, I would hope that as a parent, I would see the signs and back the fuck off.
Right. So I guess the reason I brought it up, I'm just like, I don't know if I don't have an answer to, obviously, but like how would you address a society that is always online? And how would you navigate it?
I live in a society that's extremely online. So I would hope by setting an example living, I would show my child how to move about in a healthy way.
You know what's funny? A lot of the CEOs who are in charge of the tech companies, they don't like allow their kids to have cell phones or be online when they're kids. So I'm like, sometimes you're like, I wonder if they know something we don't know.
They probably do. But here's the thing. I think that the most important thing growing up for me was to feel like I was a person, and I still barely feel that. And so I want nothing more for my kid than to feel like they have autonomy and ability to make choices. And if I tell my kid, hey, I think the internet may be dangerous, be careful, I want my kid to be able to be like, fuck you, mom, I'm going to do it anyways, and get into trouble. I don't think that would make me happy, but what that would make me know is that my child is an autonomous person who makes decisions that are informed if they have their own reason. Okay, I want to move on from this, but I do think that's interesting. Just to wrap up the notable people, we've got Harper Beckham, the Beckhams. We got Stormy Webster.
I'm not familiar, but
David Beckham, Victoria Beckham.
I'm going to go off of the last names here because these sound like all people's kids.
We've got all of I didn't want to name all the Kardashians, but pretty much every one of the brood. Culture Chiari Cephas. You know who that is?
Cardi B and
Offset. All right, so we've got 2 games to wrap it all up. This one is just real quick. Do you know this Gen A slang? Okay. So we already talked about how Slay is out. I'm going to play a quick clip for you.
Yeah, I understand that some of my students are going to be visiting the high school today, and they can be a little bit much. So I just wanted to call you and give you a heads up, prepare you a little bit.
Don't worry, Mr. Lindsay. I'm like one of the cooler, younger teachers here on campus, so these Gen Z kids don't scare me. I even have like a whole series about it, so I'm totally down with all of like the Gen Z slang. Like I know the vibes. Bet.
Yeah, no, I don't think you understand. These kids are, how do you say it, built different. Yeah, and they don't call them Gen Z anymore. They call them Gen Alpha, and they... Yeah! Yeah, skibbity toilet. Bruh, Miss Chella, you've been working on your mewing?
What?
Your mewing? This class about to be the best, bruh.
What?
Don't be an op, Miss Chella, don't be an op. What's up, chat? W in the chat for Miss Chella. W in the chat, bruh. Bruh. It's so preppy in here. Miss Chella, you are the preppiest. Bruh. Tried to warn her. Whew.
So, how many pieces of slang did you recognize in that? Let's start with skibbity toilet.
Never heard it, but I'm gonna guess it's about a toilet.
Yep, it's a singing toilet that became a meme, and it's like when we all loved like the Nyan Cat and like everybody has had more sex than me. You remember that one?
I don't know.
Well, there was stuff from our generation that were like the end of the world. It's kind of like their version of that. It's a skibbity toilet. And literally, okay, so Gen Z hates this. I kind of hate it. What do you think about Skibbity Toilet?
I don't think anything about it. Does it mean anything? I feel like it's just nonsense.
It's nonsense, and that is Gen Alpha. So Skibbity Toilet, number one, Gen Alpha slang. I think Riz is a little borderline Gen Z, Gen Alpha, but that one's popular more with the older Gen
Like
Alpha.
internet, I feel like.
Yeah, because it stands for charisma, and people love to. And I also think the Meninists have taken it over and the pickup artists have taken it over. The Meninists.
I don't know. I'm not familiar.
They're feminists, but they're men who want men's equal rights.
Oh, men's rights.
Mm-hmm. So they want Riz because they pick up artists. But of course, when something is big on the internet, it can be taken in all directions. So
that one came from a Twitch. A lot of these came from Twitch streamers making them.
Same with
like they've been around, but then someone used it in a memorable way, and then everyone.
All right, so you know what GAT means.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an exclamation made popular by a Twitch streamer. Do you know what mewing means?
You told me last time. I still don't quite really understand it, but
it's like Kegels, but for your tongue.
Uh-huh.
To make your.
My question is, who's really doing this? Are these just people making fun of things they see on the internet, or do people have children who are actually doing this?
So I think mewing came from.
Because I haven't seen.
I think mewing came from the playground where people are doing it. Like cherry bombs came from the playground. So
What's
I don't
cherry
think.
bombs?
Well, we used to do cherry bombs. We would hang on a. Cherry bombs, if you guys don't know, was a popular thing. At least it was when I was in school. I don't know. Maybe I thought that you did them, but maybe you didn't, because we were in different classes. But at recess, we would have recess is a thing. Outdoors playgrounds are a thing we used to have. We would go outside to play, and we wouldn't have phones. We had these bars, monkey bars, and we'd get on them. We'd put our knees, and then a cherry bomb was literally the most dangerous thing. We literally hang upside down, swing, and then just fly and try to land on our feet. And many times you wouldn't land on your feet. So that was technically slang. Well, I mean, I don't think adults were out there talking about...
What's the real word then?
No, I don't think there's a word. I'm just saying this was a thing, right? Like a thing that was popularized by children. So
I thought slang was like vernacular for another thing, you know?
Okay, so maybe all this is not slang, but this is terms.
Things that they do, yeah.
Yeah, so mewing's not slang because there's no real term for it. Mewing is something completely made up that apparently makes your chin less. And you know what? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know. Maybe mewing does come from some other thing, but I think it's like Kegels.
Why do they want to?
Because
just for fun.
You know, sometimes you see yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh my God, I've got a double chin. And that happens. And I'm going to be honest.
6-year-olds are doing this?
I don't know. They're 6-year-olds, like 13-year-olds. I'm going to be honest. I've seen myself and been like, I don't know what to do about that. And now I'm like, I could be mewing.
Does it work?
I don't know, but
Have
apparently
you
they think. Wait.
What do? You just go
tongue to the roof of your mouth and then swallow. It does work. You're
Oh, I know what it is doing. It's like a tongue. Our acting teacher used to make us do similar things with like tongue exercises. So if you tend to mumble, it's like there's things to do.
Yeah, it comes from like speech therapy and that kind of thing. But it does work. It strengthens this muscle.
There's another one you can go.
And it strengthens your muscles, so it doesn't. But the thing is, like you said, it has always been around maybe, but it wasn't always cool. Okay. Well, I have one more game. And this one will be a little more fun for you. Okay. Are you ready for the title?
Sure.
This is called Are These Rates Going Up or Just Going Down? Make a guess, take your time, 'cause you'll soon find out. Take the years that have gone by and see if you can guess whether Gen Alpha stats are low or high. Okay. So the name of the game is guess if these stats are going up or down in Gen Alpha. Okay. Number 1, life expectancy.
Up.
Answer is correct. Life expectancy is going up. Generation Alpha is expected to have a 16% higher life expectancy in comparison to millennials. My children are going to outlive us. Literacy rate.
Down.
What makes you say that?
Just because I know that COVID made a big impact on education.
Teachers are reporting Generation Alpha students are struggling significantly in terms of literacy and academic performance. Many still operating at lower grade levels despite being in higher grades. Lots of issues with reading, writing, comprehension, and even basic knowledge about subjects like geography and current events.
Yeah, I think some of them don't even know the ABC. Well, you can't really blame them. Hopefully they'll catch up, but it's really tough in public schools because California I think they're passing something to help whatchamacallit, fund some of those underserved public schools. So hopefully we'll be able to
They're all
catch
going to be
up.
coding though. They're all going to know coding and none of us are.
Well, you can't code if you can't spell. So you got to still cover the basics.
You know what's funny is I bet you they're all going to be able to talk to the wind. They're all going to be like, I know magic. And then we're going to be like, please tell me what the sign says. And be like, I challenge all the bees to come. And I'm like they're talking to crows out here. And I'm like,
well, you know, you have a point that I didn't think of before. China, when they had really low literacy, I mean, this is controversial, but the dictator, because they were a dictatorship, Mao Zedong, he just literally just changed the writing system to make it easier. And I hope we don't go this direction because unfortunately I don't like that they did that. Not being political, I've learned both systems, so I can read both, and I think they're both useful because sometimes you want to write shorthand, but it's just a very fast change. But I can see that happening with English too. If enough people don't learn to spell correctly, they might just come up with new spellings because the internet speak, LOL speak, all that stuff is like ingrained into our lexicon now.
yeah.
So-
And then just to tag along with that, the Mr. Dictator man, you know, had an ulterior motive. It wasn't just to get everyone to read.
Right.
It was because that's how you control a population is change the language. It's literally in the cult doctrinations. It's literally what every dictator, it's in the playbook. It's literally like the shit that Trump does when he makes up stuff like Let's Go Brandon. You literally just unite people by
Let's go what?
Let's Go Brandon, Make
What's
America Great. They're just, I'm glad you don't know them, but they're things that Trump says and they're very like,
I've heard Make America Great. I thought that was his campaign slogan.
yeah, but they've become dog whistles, right? But ultimately, when you change your language, you're creating a wall around the people that choose allegiance to you, and all the people who you're either making them obsolete. You're forcing a decision.
Yeah. So, well, I don't want things to go that way, but I was just saying, you were talking about
Yeah, I
workarounds,
see what
and
you're
I was saying the next generation, if they don't catch up, they might just find a workaround.
I would love for all the kids to go back to speaking with the nature. All right, next one, allergies. Are we going up? Or just going down?
I wish it was lower, but I kind of feel like it's going up
You're correct. It's going up. Parents of Generation
because of all
Alpha,
the processed foods.
yeah, firsthand seeing the change in children's health from their childhood to today, from increased childhood obesity to more sedentary lives,
That's
to the
been going up.
increase in food allergies and heightened awareness of anaphylaxis and special dietary needs. This, along with these parents being more nutritionally informed, here's the good side, is giving Generation Alpha an improved nutritional foundation because they're paying more attention. A generation of new parents have themselves been seeking healthy eating from organic food, less meat in their diets, alcohol-free days. So American.
Oh, so you're saying before they were drinking daily?
Yeah, this might be an international thing. So this skews European.
Oh, like Europe.
Yeah, because this is in English, so I don't think they're really folding in too much of Asia. More label reading and more additive avoidance. Okay,
That's good.
poverty rate.
Down. I mean, go up.
Or-
I'm sorry, lower poverty, like lower prices, like lower money. Is that down or up? Like more poverty?
More
basically.
poverty.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Poverty rate is going up. Poverty rates for Gen Alpha have been the highest of all generations. That's really scary because we're supposedly like moving into Arab technology.
What are they using their parents as? Because they're not old
I'll
enough
tell
to
you,
make money.
starting at 25. No, living in poverty, right?
Oh, yeah.
Starting
Just
at
their parents.
and usually you measure that by are you getting basic things like food, water. Starting at 25% in 2013, dipping to 18%, about 6.1 million kids in 2021. However, since Gen Alpha started in 2013, a greater percentage of this generation has lived in low-income families than all other generations. That's wild, knowing how the trend that we're going towards. I mean, maybe it's back. We should get back to hating capitalism
Well, why would that help?
because some people are getting richer.
So hating the system that we live in would
No,
make
I'm just dismantling
people
it.
less
No, let's
poverty?
dismantle it.
I don't
I
understand
think
the
we should
logic.
dismantle it so that there's more resources.
And put a new system or just have chaos?
No, not have chaos. I think we should build communities up with resources
Yeah, that's great.
instead
But
of
you can't do that with
exploiting-
capitalism?
This is
Okay.
another episode we need to have because this is the last bit.
Because I thought capitalism as a theory is about innovation and
Oh yeah,
growth of economy. So wouldn't that
yeah,
help?
it's a great theory.
Provide more
Yeah.
resources?
What do you think communism is a theory?
Well, here's what I'll say.
These are great theories.
I don't think it's what our country is running well in that sense, but I don't necessarily know if it has to do with capitalism or communism, because just like you said, China is also on the other end, and they have a theory of communism that's supposed to work and it doesn't work. So I feel like we have this theory of capitalism that's supposed to work that doesn't work. So I don't think capitalism is a problem. We're not like allocating and making the policies that are really putting the people in mind. You know
So
what
you're
I mean?
saying it's a leadership issue.
I think
It's an execution issue.
it's not just leadership, because there's lobbyists, there's so many different layers involved. There's different interested parties that have different interests that are pushing and pulling. So we're not, as a country, I don't think we're making policies that are putting the people at the forefront.
You don't think there's an
But I don't know if that is a capitalist issue or just a policy issue. You know what I'm saying?
You don't think there's inherently flaws in something we've tried for so
Sure,
long
I think
called
there could be.
capitalism? Whether a theory, look, I'm not saying there's not great points made in the Communist Manifesto, right? Karl Marx made some interesting points. He also said the world would turn to lemonade. You guys should look that up. But you know, that's the theory. Are we talking about? Do you think anti-capitalists are anti-theory, or do you think they're anti-reality? That's my question for you.
I don't know. I just
I can tell you because I'm an anti-capitalist. I'm not
You
anti-theory.
are.
I am
by
anti-reality.
practice.
Yeah. Have you
So,
noticed?
okay,
I work
so
for
what
my.
does the anti-capitalist do? Would you not buy things in grocery stores? And
I do not support the idea of brands getting richer, exploiting labor.
what's that on your shirt?
The idea. Well, I live here, right? I am pro survival. I will say this. I'm sure that I could be living a better example, but at the bottom line, what I think capitalist is in my mind is the bottom line mattering more than the human line.
Yeah, I agree that is not a way to run.
And I am anti that.
country.
I'm completely anti that. If I had a company, even if it came down to, oh my God, you can make your company fucking rich, but you have to screw these employees who work for you over, I would not do
Yeah,
it.
Hell no. But that's
people,
That's what I'm
that
saying.
is the basis of capitalism.
Okay, well, I didn't know that.
That is the
I
basis
thought
of it.
capitalism was just about having free market. That's what I thought it was. But I guess I need to do
It's
my
a
research.
rosy picture. Yeah, we should do an episode about that. But the final one, is this going up or is it going down? ADHD.
I think it's going up only because people are using more screens, but I don't think it needs to stay that way, because it is not just Gen Alpha, but our generation. They said that about us too because of the technology. And if you take those things away, it goes down again. So that's a remediable thing, I think, if like you were saying, if these companies decide to be ethical and take action to do that, which doesn't seem like they're doing. But
Well, why don't we give our plea to the company? For you're right, by the way, 31% from 2010 to 2017 went up among Americans aged 2 to 18 years old. This is based on Blue Cross Blue Shield study. Obviously, insurance is also notoriously the best source. No, but anyways, I believe it for sure. Let's make our plea. Companies, if you're listening, what was the thing you said?
no, I said that I don't know, I was kind of
I like
rambling.
the
I was kind of
rosy
rambling,
picture.
but I was saying that the it's going up because of screen time. I mean, I'm sure that's not the only reason. I'm sure some people are clinically deficient, attention deficient, but I think a lot of people are getting diagnosed because of the environmental stimulants, which could easily be remedied.
I see. Well, that is our snapshot about Gen Alpha. I do want to, before we close out, because I really, I and I'm sure, I don't know how much we'll make it in, but between you and I found that I did have a reaction that I'm not proud of to when you were trying to give your opinion. And I want to speak on behalf of my work in therapy, because, if we're not all trying to get better, then what's the point? And the point of the podcast, I think, is at the bottom of everything for me is to improve our relationship, not just talking about Gen Alpha. As much as I love those kids, it's really you matter more. And there was a fear in that you were going to take it into a direction that was going to be hard to come back from. And so I don't think that's fair to you, because I think that's the point of the pod, right? Like you say, it's chaotic. And I do think you and I read each other's emotions pretty well, to a point that other people can't. And when I was feeling like a surge of different type of negative energy that was overwhelming to me because I was feeling it not just at me but through you, you know, because we are twins, and sometimes I feel like I was feeling what you were feeling, and that made it difficult for me in the moment to see clearly. It was kind of foggy, but so I apologize, because I think if I were a parent, bringing this back to our earlier conversation, if I disagreed with my kid, rather than be like, no, I should be like, wow, my kid is distressed. What's something I can do in noticing this, rather than be like, shut it down, is be like, oh, let me give you space to be distressed. So I wish I had, I know that the point is moot because you don't want to keep repeating it yourself, but I wish I had given you that space to just be distressed and be uncomfortable and allow myself to be uncomfortable, even if the conversation went somewhere where I felt like, oh, this isn't quite what I meant. Because it felt like something I was launching out was not being, like it felt like I was being like, this is blue. And you were like, green? No. And it's okay. You should be allowed to misinterpret things I say.
Well, I accept your apology. And I also didn't react well. I think I do get really frustrated and easily flustered when I can't figure out what I'm saying, but it doesn't all have to do with you. I think sometimes my thoughts do get half formed a little, and then I'm like if I finally muster up the like attention to like form a sentence and it gets like thrown off, I get a little confused, and that's not on you at all. That's like I need to have better brain processes that can bring that back. So
Hold my hand. Hold my hand.
And on that, I also want to say I also do interrupt you, so it's not just on you. I do it as well, and I'm sorry about that. But yeah, apology accepted.
Hold my hand. Thank you. This has been the things.
Okay.
See you next time.